Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Starside Chat. It's the Google I/O 2018 edition. We normally talk about games, but we also like movies and tech, so sometimes we talk about that when we can. Joining me is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
And I'm Zach, and I'm the other host. And yeah, so Google I/O happened this morning. And
yes, we're hot off of it. It was only like an hour ago that it ended, or the keynote at least.
Yeah. So some interesting things to talk about. I think a little disappointing they didn't have any actual devices to show off.
I guess let's get into things we were a little disappointed by. Something else you mentioned right before we started recording that I was sort of let down by is they didn't talk about Wear OS or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so they rebranded it as Wear OS, and they have essentially said nothing about it since. And it's been, I think, quite a long time. I think maybe it's Qualcomm who makes the chips for the Android Wear devices. They've just been like stagnant. They haven't made a new chip for like Wear devices in years. And so as a result, it's very, very stagnant right now on the Wear OS front. Like they're not a lot of new devices are coming out, and the ones that are obviously still working on old chipsets. So I feel like Google's just sort of waiting. And they're just like, we're not really going to unveil any new like Wear OS devices or talk about any of that or like improvements to that until they actually make something. But like if this is a line of devices and features that they want to carry forward at some point, they have to do something.
Very surprised there was no Wear. I was not surprised, but I was sad to see there was not really any Daydream VR stuff, or like there's very limited. They didn't directly say like AR at any time. Like we didn't get any smart glasses or anything.
Well, they did talk about something that I think could very definitely be a part of that sort of thing, like a Wear like glasses or smart glasses in the future, but they didn't actually say like we plan on like implementing this in some sort of like headset or glasses thing.
It was basically a thing where if it was a car, I guess they did talk about cars, but if this was like a car conference, they were like, oh man, we just invented these crazy cool wheels, but we're not announcing a car yet. But these wheels would definitely be super cool on a car. Yeah. And that's to say that like, I guess let's talk about it. One of the things that was most exciting was the Google Maps. They had a couple of things, and one of them was this AR functionality where, and they brought up a very applicable use case where you look at your phone and it's like, okay, start walking east, or like, especially if you're in a parking lot, it will be like head north to this place if you want to like get to or like head north on South Street or something like that. And you're like, what way is north?
Yeah, exactly.
Now you can just hold your phone up, and the bottom of it is still Google Maps a little bit, so kind of like isometrically. But then it's just your camera, and it has AR stickers on it where it's like, turn this way, and like, this is a business, and things like that, which is great.
Yeah, so it seems like ideally suited to like be part of some sort of car dashboard system. Like if one of these days our windshields become like displays in themselves, like this will be perfect for that. Or if you had like smart glasses. But yeah, what it does is it uses the camera. So yeah, you're holding your phone up, and so the top half of the display is what you're seeing through the camera, and the bottom half there's still like the maps part of it. And so you can still see where you are in the map and like with the street names and everything, but you also get an actual view of your surroundings. And so like an arrow will pop up and say, all right, turn right here. So you know exactly where you are, and you're not like, I don't know how many times I've had it where I'm trying to navigate somewhere and it's like that wide view, like overhead looking straight down. And it's not like it hasn't zoomed in behind me to say, okay, you're looking this direction, now turn this way. So I'm looking at this top down view, and I'm like, I don't know which direction to go because you're not actually navigating me right now.
In the way they do it, they showed like there's a bunch of different ways, I assume. But one of the ways, they showed a really cool graphic of the phone, and then it's like view of the world, and it was looking at basically a giant building, and it was like shooting out and looking at all the data points. And basically, because Google Maps and like Google Earth and stuff knows like what that building is most likely, especially if you're in like New York and they have like maps of all the buildings, then that's how it orients. It knows exactly what it's looking at, so it can build off of that sort of. But there's also, I mean, there's got to be a ton of other ways it's also getting its position.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it does that, but it's cool that it like will pop up cards that say, okay, there's a Starbucks here, and there's like this building is this, specific building, and here's some information about it if you want. And so I thought
all
that
of
was
which
really
would be great for AR glasses, the future of Google Glass, whatever that will be. It probably won't be called Google Glass, but
yeah, we were texting during the whatchamacallit?
keynote.
Yeah, the keynote. Sometimes words just fall right out of my head.
Well, we should disclaimer: you're very sick right now, and you just took a bunch of cold medicine.
I am sick. I took some cold medicine, and so yeah. If I start speaking gibberish, you know why. I do have some coffee here for your auditory pleasure that I may sip eventually.
Let me hear some of that right now. Actually,
are you ready for this?
Yeah, do it. Oh, that's some ASMR right there. That's great.
We just really leveled up the profile of this video with that ASMR in there.
Yeah, we'll add it to the SEO.
But yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, during the keynote we were texting, and as soon as we saw that, I was like, this would be ideal for like a new wave of Google Glass, like AR, like some sort of AR glasses thing.
And we know there was a rumor last week or 2 weeks ago that Apple is like heavily investing in some sort of headset that is AR/VR that they're looking to premiere in 2020. So hopefully Google can get out ahead of that.
Yeah, hopefully. I wonder if it's a thing that we will see start popping up and like car windshields at some point. I keep waiting for that day to happen where some car manufacturer's like, you guys wanted it, here they are. Like,
I don't know, man. I feel like that's a race.
As screens.
Another thing they talked about was their smart cars and their like automated driving, and I feel like it's a race between like soon enough you'll be in a car and you won't need to look at the windshield, So smart windshields might be unnecessary at some point.
Well, I guess it would be. I guess if you have like automated driving, maybe you don't need it. But I guess it would still be kind of cool to like feel like you know where you're going, I guess.
It's true, yeah. Definitely if you like got a Waymo and you were in a city you didn't know and you were just Waymoing to some place, it was like popping up facts and things, or like, oh, this is a Jimmy John's. Anyway, quickly, other things they talked about with Google Maps. They had sort of a shared list thing, which I would definitely use, where let's say you're trying to pick a place to eat at night. You can go through all these suggestions and like long press on them, and then they get added to this list. So instead of like copy and pasting, like, what about this restaurant? What about this restaurant? You can make a list of like 6 restaurants very easily, and then pipe that into any chat like platform that you want to, and then people can like vote and comment in real time. So it's sort of like they should really have like more integration, I feel like, in Allo. I guess they're not working on Allo anymore.
So I maybe we should finish the point about Google Maps, but that's another thing I want to talk about is messaging apps and the lack of any sort of discussion about that during the keynote.
Yeah, that's surprising because they did come out publicly earlier in the month saying like, hey, guess what? We're not putting any resources in Allo anymore. So like that's not happening. So I think you and me both thought like, oh, there's going to be some new solution.
Well, it wasn't just that. They were also like, there was all these articles coming out about rumors about how they were going to update the like basic Google Messenger, which is just a text messaging app. And they were gonna like really lean into that as like their primary method of sending messages. And so between that and the fact that they were not going to put any more resources into Allo, we were like, well, so for sure they're going to dump everything from Allo into Messages, and they're going to like beef that up into this like, great messaging app that will be sort of the iMessage counterpart on Google. And I was waiting for them to do that because right now the messaging on Android is super like messed
Fragmented.
up. Yeah, very, very fragmented. They have Hangouts, they have Duo, Allo, Messages. They're just too many apps. And so the rumors we were hearing before Google I/O was that they were going to talk about how they're going to sort of consolidate those into like an app that sort of is the one-stop shop that has everything that you need. And so I was super ready for them to do that because I'm kind of sick of having 20 different messaging apps on my phone. And they didn't say anything about it. So I was super disappointed that they didn't unveil a new messaging app for that.
Yeah, I think the Messages thing is the plan where they just like beef up the SMS client, but it's all things, so it's an iMessage competitor. But they did not discuss. But going back to Google Maps, the one other thing I want to talk about was the For You tab, which is a thing where you get, it's sort of like a, I don't know. Do you want to talk about this?
So I may have zoned out during this because I was also doing some other things, and I'm also sick. So, so my attention span isn't quite what it normally would be.
Well, it's basically, it gives you sort of like a little overview, and this is also predicated on like you reviewing restaurants and things, but you have like a profile basically of like, oh, this restaurant I give 4 stars, this restaurant I give 5 stars. So it knows kind of like your taste profile. And that's fed into sort of another thing where it's about your community. So if new restaurants are opening up, it'll say like, hey, this is a new restaurant. And because it has your profile, it's like, oh, you probably like this, and things like that. So it's sort of just a way to explore your general area, not just about restaurants, but
sort of a Yelp type of a situation.
In a little bit of a way. But anyway, I think the big star of the show and the thing we should talk about next is the Google Assistant.
Yeah. So they definitely spent a lot of time talking about Assistant, and that seemed to be where most of their attention was. Obviously, they didn't talk about Messages or, new devices. They didn't even talk about, there were rumors that they were going to change the Google Music situation because they have YouTube Music and Google Play Music, and they were talking about changing that up. And so I was kind of dreading hearing what they were going to do with that, but they didn't even talk about it. So Assistant was like the main thing that they wanted to talk about. And I don't know about you, but the thing that I was most excited about throughout their Assistant presentation was having Assistant make calls to set appointments for you.
Yes. This is something they're calling Google Duplex. And it is basically, if you're talking to the Assistant, maybe on your Google Home or anywhere, and you say, schedule me a haircut. The first example they used was schedule me a haircut at like noon or sometime around noon. And then it's like, okay. And then without you, in the background, a phone call is placed by an AI, and a real person answers at the salon, and they're like, hey, what's up? And the Google thing is like, the AI doesn't even say like, I am a computer or anything. It's very natural. It's a bot. And it's basically like, yeah, I'm so-and-so's assistant, or I'm looking to make like an appointment for a client. And then it's smart enough. It's that bot technology, similar to, do you know what Jolly Roger is? I think that's what it's called.
No.
Jolly Roger is this thing you can use to mess with telemarketers, where they'll call you and then somehow you forward them to Jolly Roger, and it is one of these like chatbots that can know, it has limited knowledge of like what to say when, and it just strings along telemarketers indefinitely and like hassles them because telemarketers are terrible. But it's very similar to that, for like, so the example, it was like the AI was like, I want like my client Karen would like an appointment at noon, and the real person was like, we don't have anything at noon. What about 1? And then the AI knew to say like, well, anything between like 10 and 11. And the real person was like, yeah, you just a regular haircut. And the AI was like, yeah, regular haircut. And then they were like, all right, good. It's all on the books. And then supposedly then it just hangs up and then you would get a notification that said like everything went well or something like that.
Yeah, like appointment set for 10 o'clock or whatever.
Which is great. And I would totally use, I hope that you can do it for food because like there are a couple of like, especially I'm thinking of a Mexican place that I go to a lot where I hate ordering on the phone. And if I could just be like, you know, Google, order my regular from Jalisco's. And then like it calls and it's like, hey, I would like this. I'm carrying out. And then I guess it would also need to tell me how long it would be. But that would probably be very easy. But this is a great feature that I am definitely going to use a ton.
Yeah, I was super into this because obviously, like, I don't like talking on the phone a lot.
No one does.
No one does. And so also like making appointments and everything. And the voice actually sounded very like convincing. Like if you weren't told that this was an AI, you wouldn't have known. It was that good. And the responses that it was giving were super natural as well.
If you think about it, we've had this technology a little bit when you call certain services and you get a robot for like a bank or something and the robot's like, hey, how's it going? Tell me your account number. And then you tell it to him and like, what do you want to do? And you say like billing statements. But this is way more natural and advanced and it sounds like legitimately like a real person.
Well, that is like clearly here's a recording of like an intro and some options. And then based on what you say, it hears that and then plays the next set of responses. This felt like an actual conversation happening.
Yeah. So the second example they gave was like something they called a real person and they were like, hey, the AI was like, I needed a reservation at 4 p.m. for 4 people on this day. And the person on the other line had no patience for this artificial intelligence. And they were like, when, where, when? And it was able to keep up with the conversation. And they were like, you don't need a reservation at that time. You only have 4 people. You only need a reservation for 5 people or more. And so the AI was like, oh, okay, cool. And then supposedly it went back to the user and it was like, you don't need a reservation. You're all good.
Yeah. So the other thing that I like about this is like, obviously I don't have a real assistant to make these sort of calls for me.
But it seems like you do,
But it will seem like I do, which is awesome. And so I wonder how much longer until like phone calls will be sort of handled that way too, where like a phone call that you're not going to answer goes through to your assistant and the assistant can handle it and then report back to you.
I mean, realistically, this is a stopgap measure because I think eventually, and this is something Google probably will do, they'll develop these secretaries basically for businesses. So like it'll be an AI calling an AI, and then one step further from that is a phone call doesn't need to happen basically because it's like two computers don't need fake voices to talk to each other. They can just talk to each other via like machine language. So I think the next step of this is businesses having these, and then the step after that is these not being necessary at all because it'll all be digital.
Yeah, that's true. I like the idea of these two AIs just sort of talking back and forth.
That's true. That would be interesting to see.
But yeah, the other thing is they're going to have, I think they said 6 more voices for Assistant.
Including, in some context, celebrities.
Yeah, the one they were showing was John Legend. And apparently he was in their studio recording some lines, and they have this new technology that makes it so that they can sort of approximate what his voice would sound like saying certain things, which is a little bit creepy, but and I guess that would work the same for those other 6 voices, so they don't have to have somebody literally in there recording every single line of dialogue that they need to say. They could just have them record enough stuff that they can then take their voice and create this sort of approximation of it, continuing to say other things, I guess.
Definitely. And I could see this being used promotionally, like whenever the next Star Wars movie comes out, if like you can for like a week have John Boyega as your assistant or something, or like a British person. But The other thing I was really excited about was they had a name for it, but I don't remember what it was called. But basically, they're increasing the conversationality of your Google Assistant. So, like talking to your Google Home right now, you would say, Google, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? And then it would tell you. And then if you wanted something else, even if it was immediately after, you would have to say, okay, Google again. But with this, you can just keep talking to it. It wasn't clear to me how it would know to stop listening to you, but it can keep listening so you don't have to say, okay, Google, every time.
Yeah, I liked that a lot as well. Although this presentation set off my Google Home a bunch of times. I eventually had to go over and turn it off. But yeah, the fact that you have to say, like, hey, Google, every single time in order to trigger it to actually listen to you is kind of obnoxious. Like on the phone, it's not as bad because you can just like press the button, or it has like little suggestions for like the next search you want to do or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this, I'm not quite sure how it works yet.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a thing you have to activate or if it's always going to keep listening for a little bit of time after, or if you can go into your home control settings and set like keep listening for 30 seconds after everything, or I'm not sure. Like I definitely want to know more about this.
Yeah, but they did say that it can differentiate between you talking to someone else and then going back to ask it something else without needing the trigger phrase again. So I'm not sure how all of that's going to work or how well it's going to work, but I'm very curious to test it out and see.
That's true. Yeah, they did a thing. The guy doing the demo was like, hey, Google, what's the weather going to be? And then it said like, it's going to be sunny. And then he was like, oh yeah, it's a good day for this. Call me a Lyft. Whereas if you did it now, it'd be like Googling, okay, day for this or something like that. So it knows it's learning the difference between conversationally talking to it and asking it to do things.
Yeah, which is definitely important and a thing that can be kind of frustrating when you're trying to talk to Google, especially like on my phone. It's getting a little bit older. Sometimes it like takes longer than you expect it to actually start listening. And so it will miss the command that I gave it and hear the part where I'm getting frustrated with it and say, why didn't you listen to it? And then it does like a search for Google. Why aren't you listening to me or something like that?
Other thing they touched on, they are introducing Google Smart Displays, basically Echo Shows. Is this something you're interested in?
I think it's kind of cool. It's basically just an upgraded Google Home, which I already have one of those. But obviously this would have a screen on it, so it could, if you have one in the kitchen and you ask for a recipe, it can literally show you something. So I do
That's
think
the use case for this.
Yeah, I do think it is
kitchen.
More practical than like even a standard just home speaker. So it's just the next level Google Home. So it makes sense, but
yeah, I think the main use case for this, and from what I've heard, a lot of people with Echo Shows, they live in the kitchen, not just because it can easily show you like video step-by-step, like recipes and things like that, but also it's nice to have a little TV in that room if you're doing stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think people, like a lot of people have just like small TVs on like a countertop in their kitchen so they can watch stuff while they're cooking or
basically
while they're
a miniature
breakfast.
Smart TV now.
Yeah, it's basically that, which is, I think, awesome. So
what would you pay for one of these?
I guess that's the question. How much was the like base Google Home model?
$129.
I mean, I don't know what they have to price it at to make it competitive, but I would say drop the price of the base Google Home model to like 100 and make this like 150.
Yeah, that's acceptable to me. I might pick one of these up depending on where I'm at when they're released. And also, like, I'm sure there will be good deals on Black Friday.
True. Yeah, they always seem to
Google
have
Home
some
Minis.
sort of deal.
I got a Google Home Mini for like $18.
Yeah, that's when I got mine as well. They had them on sale for super cheap. Plus, they have some deal as well, usually, where you can get like some Google Play credit on top of it, which is
exactly.
Nice.
It's a Trojan horse. Like, they want Google devices in your house so that you're using them. So, like, they're priced very aggressively, I feel like, for that reason, because they want you to start using them and they want the presence in your home.
Yeah, that was the thing for the longest time. People wondered how they could get away with selling Nexus devices for so cheap, because they were like half the price at least from other like phones and tablets and stuff. But the idea was, and Amazon kind of lives by this as well, where they can sell you their hardware cheap and then make that money off of you later through like advertisements and you buying products and services and software and like movies and TV shows and music and stuff like that.
Other star of the show, Zach, do you want to tell me about Android P, which you could start using today?
I don't know if I will though, just because I'm always a little bit wary to test the betas out, just because like obviously I need my phone to work. But yeah, so there was a video like a long time ago where I think it was OnePlus had like unveiled this new like gesture-based navigation system that basically ripped off the iPhone X wholesale, like the exact way that they handled navigation. Google is doing a little bit less like straight rip-off of that, but it's very, very similar.
Yeah, it's like the thing that associated it most with me is a removal of the home button and just swiping up now. That is very iPhone X to me.
Yeah. Well, so the swiping up gets you to the multitasking, I think.
Yes, and then 2 swipes get you to all apps.
So there is still, it's basically like the old like Samsung home button that's kind of a sort of a little rounded rectangle at the bottom, and that's just, you have the one home button now. So you press that to go home still. That's the same. But you swipe up on it to get to the multitasking, and then a little back button will display if you need to go back. So it's kind of like a hybrid between the iPhone X and standard like old style Google Android navigation. I don't know how I feel about it yet because I haven't tested it, but
so you're not going to you have a Pixel.
I do. I might try it out. I'm not sure. I think it's interesting. They said it was all about simplification, and I do think maybe it simplifies the like recent app stuff a little bit, because you can now like swipe and scroll to go back and forth. I'm not sure that's any faster than the way we had it already. But certainly like quickly navigating between like the last app or two, which is currently pretty fast actually. I don't know.
A touchstone that they kept mentioning was they wanted you to get your time back. They wanted things to be faster. And so something that they're doing to kind of help with that is like sort of rich suggested actions. Right. So like when you go to your apps, now you also have suggested things that, depending on time of day and like things it remembers about you. So like you have all your apps, but it's also like, hey, do you want to call Rebecca? Or like it knows you're about to go home. So it's like, oh, do you want to just navigate home with just the press of like one button, something like that? And they're calling, so there's this, and there's also in your search results, if you're, let's say the use he used was like, oh, I love Fandango, so I'm gonna start typing Infinity War. And in your search results, there is like the Google search results and like YouTube and things like that. But now apps will be able to have what are called slices with suggested actions. So because you have Fandango, it'll have like a whole, instead of just like a line in your search results, even before you've hit enter, where it's just like Fandango. Infinity War. It also says like get tickets.
Yeah, if you search for Infinity War in Google, like the Google search bar on your phone's home screen, it will pull up among the search results will be a little Fandango button that you can click to essentially go right into the app that you have on your phone, the Fandango app, with the Infinity War page pulled up so that you can quickly order tickets.
Yes, which is cool. The other things they talked about, dashboard, which is sort of another saving your time. They talked a lot about digital well-being, and this is a thing where it's logging all of your activity. So you can go into your phone and it'll tell you how long how much time you spend in apps and things like that. And you can set time limits for yourself to sort of be like, I need to stop. I'm on Instagram like 80% of my time, or like I refreshed Twitter like 1,000 times today. So I'll say like I'm only going to be on Instagram for an hour a day. So it's logging that, and it'll give you little reminders like, hey, only have like 5 minutes left. And then when you reach that limit, it doesn't like bar you from using it, but it does gray out the icon as sort of a little reminder like, hey, you told yourself you were going to only use this for an hour, and an hour has elapsed. So like, take a chill pill on Instagram, maybe.
Yeah, this is like if you ever played like Connect or Wii something, if you played it for a while, they used to have these things that were like, maybe take a break for a little while. These things that would just pop up and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to keep playing.
And in that same vein, the sort of like unplugging and sort of being in present, they introduced a feature called Shush, which is basically if you have your phone out and you put it face down on a table, it automatically is not going to give you any notifications and go on silent until you pick it back up again.
Yeah, it basically puts your phone automatically into Do Not Disturb mode, which I kind of like. You have to remember, obviously, that it does that, because some people just naturally put their phone face down without thinking about it. So you'll have to be aware of that. But I do like that it's just sort of a quick shorthand way of going into Do Not Disturb mode. The example they were showing was like you're at dinner and obviously you're with someone, so just put your phone face down and then you don't have to deal with it.
Very true. Getting back to AR though.
I wanted to say one more thing about the swipe stuff.
Oh yeah, please do.
So they were talking about how much that is supposed to simplify and make things faster, but I'm not sure it actually does. So I commented on this, the video I think somebody put up about when OnePlus unveiled their swipe gestures, and I was like, this isn't faster than what we already have, because in order to get to the app tray, one swipe up gets you to multitasking, another swipe up gets you to your app tray. How is that faster than one swipe up that we already have? You know,
I think that it is all in service of phones without home buttons.
We don't have one. You know what I mean? Like Google so the thing that OnePlus like they were talking about was like, this is all about having, you know, a bezel-less phone, right? So we want to make it so that you can have your phone and you don't have to worry about bezels or home buttons on the front of your display. It's just like we already don't have that. So the iPhone did it because they had a home button on their phones. In order to go bezel-less, they had to remove that. So they had to come up with another way of navigating your phone. And so instead of having like the home back multitasking the way Android does, they did like a swipe or gesture-based thing. And now you have Android devices that already have a solution to not having a physical home button. They're also trying to do this gesture thing just because the iPhone did it. And it's like, you guys already had the solution to this problem. You already had it, so you don't need to do this. And so the other thing people will say is that, well, yeah, but we want to have like the full screen display. We don't want the little like 3 millimeter of navigation buttons at the bottom of the screen, which seems like a non-issue. But the thing is, this doesn't fix that, because there is still that home button on the bottom of the screen. So it doesn't even solve that problem. So I just don't know if it's necessary. Like, it's fine. It's just, it's different for different sake.
I would be interested. Now I really want you to download the beta and like try it out.
I may do that. It's just that, like, I'm not like totally against it. I just think it's kind of silly and unnecessary. Like, I may try it and find that I really like it, but just looking at it from a distance is just kind of like, it's fine. It's just different because it's different. I don't know. This wasn't like a thing that I was like, oh, you need to be working on this, you know? Where's the messaging stuff? You need to be working on that. But instead, we're getting a different navigational system.
Something else we're getting is Google Lens in a bigger capacity.
So tell me about that.
So currently, at the moment, you can access Google Lens. I don't know if there's an app even, but It's in Google Photos. So like if you swipe through your Google Photos, there's a lens button. And so you can click it and it'll give you like rich information about things. But they're transitioning into being in every camera, basically. So every camera now on a phone will have, like the camera app, will have lens functionality in real time. So it's an AR kind of thing, yes, where like you're moving your phone around and looking through it.
Yeah, so I think right now, like the camera app, once you take a photo, it gives you those options to like...
Yours might. Mine does not.
Oh, really? Well, once you take a photo, it pops up with some information and you can sort of get this Google Lens stuff. But so what this is saying is that it'll just be baked right into the camera before you even take a picture, you can get information.
Exactly. And it has some real neat tricks. Like, for instance, you can copy and paste from real life, which is very cool. Like the example she had was, I'm at a restaurant. So you can like look at all the stuff on the menu and like physically click the screen and like hold and drag, and you have selected the text, and then you can just save that. Or you can look at the menu and click words in it and get more information. Like I think she was at like a Thai, it was like a Thai restaurant or something, and she was like clicking the names in Thai. It was telling her what they were. So it was like kind of not real-time translation, but because that already exists.
Real-time Google search.
Real-time Google search, exactly, which is very cool.
Yeah,
and also there was a
very
thing
cool.
where it was like similar style. They called it like style match, where like if you see a cool lamp, you can look at the lamp, click it, and then it'll show you like other lamps that look like that and like where to buy them and things like that.
Yeah, that all looked really, really cool, and something that would be very, very useful and practical to everyday life. And so that's like AR stuff that I think we're going to see a lot more of, and I'm super excited for it.
Yes. But probably, I would say next I.O. will be the AR I.O. because they're going to have to start gearing up and competing with Apple. But something that they have Apple beat in currently, and everyone else actually, I think Waymo is the top in self-driving cars, and they're talking about their pilot program in Phoenix and how they're going to expand it out. And they showed some cool diagrams of how their self-driving cars analyze things, especially in like snowy weather and things like that, which is very impressive. And they're on the streets now, and they're coming around. They're going to replace Uber, maybe. I mean, I'm sure Uber is going to have self-driving cars, but it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited for them to expand like the self-driving cars to more places.
It's very cool. I was very excited for the Waymo thing. I don't really have a lot to say about it other than that like self-driving cars are the future, and they're definitely coming within the next like year.
Yeah, I also don't have a lot to say about it because we're not in an area where like we're likely to see those like self-driving cars pop up.
It's true. It's not really necessary in our area because pretty much everyone has cars. But in a city where mass transit is great, and like public transit especially, like places with subways that work or bus systems that are great, or where things are just close and you don't need to own a car, like people in Chicago or New York or San Francisco, even
bigger cities.
Bigger cities where public transit is the main thing and you don't need a driver's license. This is going to revolutionize stuff.
Yeah. So it'll be cool for them. But yeah, I'm really interested in seeing it start to integrate into like consumer vehicles. Because one of these days we will be able to just like get in our car and set navigation for a certain place and just have it drive us there, and we won't have to worry about any of that.
I think that kids born today are probably not going to have to learn how to drive, and they probably won't own cars either. Like probably owning a car will just be like a status symbol rich person thing to do.
Or if you're like just a car enthusiast and you love driving and racing and stuff like that.
But once this reaches saturation, there's not really going to be a need to have like a car payment that you're doing a month. And like if your car crashes, you're liable. So like you won't need to pay car insurance anymore.
That would be awesome. I'm all about that.
So I guess the one thing we didn't touch on, well, there's two things. Smart Compose for Gmail is coming out, which is great. It uses machine learning to like predict what you're going to write, and then you can just press tab to finish sentences. So like they titled an email Taco Tuesday, and then they started typing like, hey, how about some, and then it knew to say like tacos on Tuesday or something, or it was better than that. Like the thing they talked most about was like it removes the necessity of having to type out mundane information. Like if you start typing my address, it'll say like, is this, or like my email or my, phone number is this, or this is what, like, probably it will have integration with calendar as well, where it's like on Wednesday and then it has like your Wednesday stuff. It'll just like automatically type out for you.
Yeah, that all sounds super useful. I wonder if that is going to also work in Inbox. Because they also...
I don't know.
They've split
I don't think anyone
up.
uses Inbox.
I think you're wrong. I did look at the new Gmail update, but I use Inbox, which is another like Google Gmail thing.
It's kind of like Google Wave, right?
No, not at all. It is its own app that is superior to Gmail.
Oh.
And you're missing out if you're not using it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It is a much better way to do email, I will say. And once you start using it, you don't want to go back.
Well, TBD on that. Definitely Gmail's great, though. Did you want to talk about Google News? I don't have anything to say about that.
Oh, yeah. They just, it's going to just be an update to it, and it'll make it better. It'll make it smarter. It's more about sort of connecting you to journalists and like news outlets that you like, and making it so that, I guess the interesting thing is that it'll make it so that if there's a news story that you're interested in, it'll sort of pull all the different stories from around the web about it so that you can kind of get the full picture and the full scope of that news story, which I guess is interesting. And maybe they've needed to do some sort of refresh of Google News for a while. So I think maybe it'll be smarter and a little bit better. I use Google Newsstand on mobile. So there again, Google has like multiple apps for everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's going to be some sort of trickle down where Google Newsstand will get updated and become a little bit better. But yeah, the Google News, it's mainly we can just mention it. It's there. If you use it, it's going to get updated, or maybe you can check it out after it gets updated and see if you like it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really use that app much.
Other highlights? Did we miss anything? It was very short. It was only like an hour long, I feel like.
Is because they left out all the stuff about Messenger and music and devices. And yeah, augmented and virtual reality.
No crazy product launches. I really wanted them, because they talked about the Google Smart Displays, and I wanted them to be like, here's the official Google Smart Display that you can get. But it was all third parties.
Yeah, I also expected that, but they didn't have one. Yeah, there was no, like, their main hardware products that they would normally show would be like a Chrome laptop, a smartwatch, a big and small phone, and maybe a tablet or some sort of Google Home device. And they literally didn't show any of them.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll definitely get a Pixel 3 or whatever they're going to call it in the fall. Yeah. We just have to wait for that.
You just have to wait to see what it's like.
Maybe we'll have a folding display.
Who knows? You keep waiting on that.
I don't think it's going to happen this year. Although Samsung has been teasing some stuff, but I don't think, like, definitely Google isn't going to do it, but we would have heard about it at I.O. But anyway, wrapping up, final thoughts? Overall feel of the thing?
I'm disappointed by about what they didn't show, but I think there's some cool stuff also, especially like AR navigation and
that was very
Google
cool.
Duplex.
Yep, that was my number one thing that I thought was cool.
Yeah, I think that's the cool stuff that's going to be talked about, but otherwise, kind of a lower key Google I/O, I thought.
Lower key keynote.
Exactly.
All right, well, thank you for joining us on this special I/O edition, I/O 2018 of Starside Chat.
Leave us a comment. Tell us what you liked about Google I/O.
Yes, we want to hear it. If we missed anything, also, we'll maybe do another video if there's enough stuff that we missed. But I think we got everything. So
I think
all right.
so.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.